Yahweh, give us new insight to your Torah portion, and let us put it in our hearts. And Yahweh, we ask that you would just reveal new things to us in this portion as we go through it. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. This week's Torah portion is Behar, Leviticus 25, verse 1, and it's a two-part portion. We'll be going through Leviticus 27, so basically till the end of the book. I would like to get a reader for 25, and we can go through, let's see, what do we want to do? We can go through verse 22. As we do it, I want to, we'll read through everything and then come back and do questions and discuss it. But as we initially read through it, like especially in this first section, try to pick out thematic connections to Genesis 1 with the Garden of Eden. It's one of Tony Robinson's portions that he has here, and I thought it was very insightful. And then I'm gonna add to that possibly if we have time later. So could I get a reader for verse 1 through 22? Does anybody have a mic, Casey? Can you pass it around, please? Aaron said he would read. Okay. Okay. All right, so verse 1 through 22, please.
Adonai spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai. He said, "Tell the people of Israel, when you enter the land I am giving you, the land itself is to observe a Shabbat rest for Adonai. 6 years you will sow your field. 6 years you will prune your grapevines and gather their produce. But in the 7th year is to be a Shabbat of complete rest for the land, a Shabbat for Adonai. You will neither sow your field nor prune your grapevines. You are not to harvest what grows by itself from the seeds left by your previous harvest, and you are not to gather the grapes of your unintended vine. It is to be a year of complete rest for the land. But the land produces during the year of Shabbat will be food for all of you, your servant, your maid, your employee, anyone living near you, your livestock, and the wild animals on your land. Everything the land produces may be used for food. You are to count 7 Shabbats of years. 7 times 7 years, that is 49 years. Then on the 10th day of the 7th month, on Yom Kippur, you are to sound a blast of the shofar. You are to sound the shofar all through your land, and you are to consecrate the 50th year, proclaiming freedom throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It will be a yovel for you. You will return everyone to the land he owns, and everyone is to return to his family. That 50th year will be a yovel for you. In that year you are not to sow, harvest what grows by itself, or gather the grapes of unintended vines. Because it is a yovel, it will be a holy for you. Whatever the fields produce will be food for all of you. In this year of yovel, every one of you is to return to the land he owns. If you sell anything to your neighbor or buy anything from him, neither of you is to exploit the other. Rather, you are to take into account the number of years after the yovel when you buy land from your neighbor, and he is to sell to you according to the number of years crops will be raised. If the number of years remaining is large, you will raise the price. If few years remain, you will lower it, because what he is really selling you is the number of crops to be produced. Thus you are not to take advantage of each other, but you are to fear your God, for I am Adonai your God. Rather, you are to keep my regulations and rules and act accordingly. If you do, you will live securely in the land. The land will yield its produce. You will eat until you have enough, and you will live there securely. If you ask, if we aren't allowed to sow seed or harvest wheat our land produces, what are we going to eat the 7th year? Then I will order my blessing on you during the 6th year. so that the land brings forth enough produce for all 3 years. The 8th year you will sow seed, but eat the old stored product until the 9th year, that is, until the produce of the 8th year comes in, and you will eat the old stored food.
Thank you. Before we move on from that, is there any comments on this? I will bring one. Real quick, I'm going to jump to Exodus 23 to give you some insight into this. This thematic structure that Tony's put together actually starts all the way, I don't want to lose my page, there we go. Actually starts all the way back in, I believe it's Exodus. So he has the thematic structure goes from Torah Portion Yitro, Jethro, to the end of Leviticus. So you're supposed to look at all of those Torah portions as one group. So the thematic connections jump all around in here. It's very deep study, and I want to tie the laws concerning the Shemitah back to Exodus when it was given here. It's Exodus 10 and 11 is what he has covered here. For 6 years you shall sow your land and gather its yield, but the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, that the poor of your people may eat, and that they leave the beast of the field may eat. You shall do likewise with your vineyard and your olive orchard. That is information that is not given in this week's reading. So in contrast, when it was given in Exodus, the focus of this, because the commandments can have multiple points to it, multiple depths to it, instructions within them. As far as this one is, this one relates more to being generous to the poor, which this Torah portion in here, it kind of gives more emphasis to that Yahweh is sovereign over the land and relates more to Him. So it has two different relations here in this commandment. So he pointed that out. I thought it was very interesting. It was worth noting that the same commandment had two different, is contrasted there. Does anybody have any comments before we go into the next section? I kind of viewed this as like the 10 Commandments. Like half of them are how you relate to God, and half of them are how you relate to your neighbor. That breaks this down and splits it like that as well. Okay. Would you finish, Aaron, in 25, 23 through the end of the chapter?
The land is not to be sold in perpetuity, because the land belongs to me. You are only foreigners and temporary residents with me. Therefore, when you sell your property, you must include the right of redemption. That is, if one of you becomes poor and sells some of his property, his next of kin can come and buy back what his relatives sold. If the seller has no one to redeem it, but becomes rich enough to redeem it himself, he will calculate the number of years the land was sold for, refund the excess to its buyer, and return to his property. If he hasn't sufficient means to get it back himself, then what he sold will remain in the hands of the buyer until the year of Yovel. In the Yovel, the buyer will vacate it and the seller return to his property. If someone sells a dwelling in a walled city, he has 1 year after the date of the sale in which to redeem it. For a full year he will have the right of redemption. But if he has not redeemed the dwelling in the walled city within a year, then title in perpetuity passes to the buyer through all his generations. It will not revert in the Yovel. However, Houses in villages not surrounded by walls are to be dealt with like the fields in the countryside. They may be redeemed before the Yovel, and they revert in the Yovel. Concerning the cities of the Levi'im and the houses in the cities they possess, the Levi'im are to have a permanent right of redemption. If someone purchases a house from one of the Levi'im, then the house he sold in the city where he owns property will still revert to him in the Yovel, because the houses in the cities of the Levi'im are their tribe's possessions among the people of Israel. The fields in the open land around their cities may not be sold, because that is their permanent possession. If a member of your people has become poor so that he can't support himself among you, you are to assist him as you would a foreigner or a temporary resident, so that he can continue living with you. Do not charge him interest or otherwise profit from him, but fear your God, so that your brother can continue living with you. Do not take interest when you loan him money, or take a profit when you sell him food. I am Yehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to give you the land of Canaan and be your God. If a member of your people has become poor among you and sells himself to you, do not make him do the work of a slave. Rather, you are to treat him like an employee or a tenant. He will work for you until the year of Yovel. Then he will leave you, he and his children with him, and return to his own family and regain possession of his ancestral land. For they are my slaves, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. Therefore they are not to be sold as slaves. Do not treat him harshly, but fear your God. Concerning the men and women you may have as slaves, you are to buy men and women slaves from the nations surrounding you. You may also buy the children of foreigners living with you and members of their families born in your land. You may own these. You may also bequeath them to your children to own. From these groups you may take your slaves forever, but as far as your brothers, the people of Israel, are concerned, you are not to treat each other harshly. If a foreigner living with you has grown rich, and a member of your people has become poor and sells himself to this foreigner living with you, or to a member of the foreigner's family, he may be redeemed after he has been sold. One of his brothers may redeem him, or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any near relative of his may redeem him. Or if he becomes rich, he may redeem himself. He will calculate with the person who bought him the time from the year he sold himself to the year of Yovel, and the amount to be paid will be according to the number of years and his time at an employee's wage. If many years remain according to them, he will refund the amount for his redemption from the amount he was bought for. If there remain only a few years until the year of Yovel, then he will calculate with him according to his years. He will refund the amount for his redemption. He will be like a worker hired year by year. You will see to it that he is not treated harshly. If he has not been redeemed by any of these procedures, nevertheless he will go free in the year of Yovel, he and his children with him. For to me the people of Israel are slaves. They are my slaves whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. I am Yehovah your God.
Anybody have any comments on that? Mike does, and Lori. Go ahead, Lori. The mic's close to you.
So the counting of the Yovel, does that start at the Day of Atonement, or does that start on when they made the Exodus? Does anybody know?
I believe it would be on the biblical year. Would that, Mike can answer that. I would assume it was either
Like
on,
Nisan?
is it trumpets or atonement? But it's going to be one of those. We need a youth to run the mic.
So I'm not exactly sure, but the way I read it, it's the counting starts. The announcement is made on the Day of Atonement for the year of Jubilee, and it will begin counting. From my understanding, when Yahweh said, "This shall be the beginning of months to you," but it's made in the 49th year. The announcement that Jubilee is coming, and it'll begin the counting in the spring. That's how I understand it. So if somebody has additional information on that, that would be great.
So the counting will begin when?
The counting, so for the announcement for the year of Jubilee coming up will be made on the Day of Atonement in the 49th year. And I believe the counting starts in the month of Abib,
Okay.
but that's how I understand it.
Just to add to that, that is because they sow their seed in the fall, they're reaping in the spring in Israel. Because and we get this later in our reading when they offer the barley and the wheat, right? That's why we count the omer. That's what we're doing.
But,
Okay.
I mean, there is room for also counting the counting right after when tabernacle starts. There is a thought there, but I believe it starts at Abib, but I could be incorrect. But I do have some other comments. So it seems a little bit odd that Israel could purchase slaves from the nations. They couldn't purchase slaves of their own brethren the way we read it there. But in either case, it sounds like they're to be given wages. So rather than maybe slaves isn't the best term, but maybe employees. But they obviously had to pay somebody to get these employees, and then at some point they can return, and there's compensation made when they return based on the amount of years they serve. So it's not like slaves that you can take and not pay them anything or give them anything, because God is a God of justice, and He's definitely does not support oppressing people, whether they be strangers or foreigners, but they're supposed to be well taken care of. And so that was just my comment on the slaves.
You do have some slaves were permanent in here that don't go, that you can bequeath to your children's and their children's children, but they were still getting a wage. So I looked up what you would pay a slave in here. So in today's money, it would be $7,500 a year is what you pay them, but you have to provide all their housing and their food. So everything's taken care of for them, and that's just money that they can do whatever they wish with. But I did find it interesting that some can be redeemed, some were in here and then could be bequeathed down through, and I don't know where the line is and how you separate that, but you have a question?
Yeah, on that same subject of slaves in the Old Testament, I'm not entirely informed on this, but my understanding was that in a circumstance of where someone came into a debt that they could not pay, such as financially, in which case you could consider it their right or their ability to give themselves as their bondservants. If they had no other way, to pay off a debt, they could agree to work off the debt. And they could agree to work off the debt as a form of payment, as a form of agreement. Now, what that would also mean is that if you were to give yourself to someone to pay off your debt, if you were to make them your master, that would also mean that it would be your master's right to perhaps sell you to pay off their own debt or to exchange masters. I'm not entirely informed on this, but I am curious if other people know more about this.
Donnie has his hand up. As it goes back to him, Donnie, you can probably give a lot of insight into this, but the servant, there's a hired hand, the servant, and then I believe a bond servant is classified differently. It's because it was somebody who would even be granted the ability to, like he paid his debt off and he is allowed to leave, and he would come and you would have to go to the elders and say, I do not want to leave my master. I love him. I wish to become a bondservant. They would take him to a doorpost and punch a hole through his ear and mark him as a bondservant, and then he would be his servant for life, and he would never leave. Did I get that right, Donnie? All the information?
Correct. So there's two types of servants. First of all, there's Canaanite, which could be non-Jewish, or there's Jewish. By Jewish, I mean Israeli, any of the 12 tribes. So you have your Israelite, and then you have your foreigner slave. The foreigner slave is kind of like more of adoption. But this slave that we're talking about here, slave is not a good word, eved, servant. So this eved, you're not, if he's an Israelite, I'm not supposed to treat him like a slave. The rabbis in the Talmud have a saying, he who acquires a servant is as if he acquires a master for himself. So if I have a juicy steak in my house, one juicy steak, and my servant, Israelite servant, is there, I have to give him the steak, and I go without the steak. If I buy myself a fancy car, I have to buy him a fancy car. I cannot make him do like servant work. He has to work like a hired hand. He has to do skilled labor. So, and I'm giving him roof, providing for him during this time. He who acquires a servant acquires a master. Get that into your head. This is kind of like opposite of American slavery, where you picture how we treated the plantation slaves. The goal was to rehabilitate this person, to put them back into society. So there are two types of people in the camp of Israel that became a slave. First of all, if you stole something because you were hungry. So you had to return what you stole plus fivefold. You're a poor person, you can't pay it back. So you work for 6 years. Or there's the person who sold themselves to pay a debt. In that case, they work until the debt is paid or until Jubilee. Also, I think it's very interesting that this passage falls in the same Torah portion as Shemitah, which means the rabbis also say that if you fail to observe Shemitah, right, the 7th year, Shemitah is based off of the idea that God is in control. If you fail to observe that, first of all, what will happen, chapter 25, verse 14, is you will start selling movable property. You'll start selling like your wife's awesome cabinet, like stuff like that to pay the bills. Then what will happen is you'll start selling your farmland piece by piece by piece. Then you'll start selling your actual home in the city. And then you will sell your own daughter as a slave. Then you will sell yourself as a slave. Then you will sell yourself as a slave to a foreigner who believes in your God. Then you will sell yourself to a foreigner who's an idol worshiper. Then you will sell yourself, if you still don't get it, to an actual idolatry temple. Notice the progression here. Mm-hmm. All because you did not have enough faith to keep Shemitah in the land. Shemitah is just saying, I'm a servant of God. I own nothing. The land is his. So just a thought there on that.
These Torah portions, in a lot of our commentary here, they tie the Torah portion together with the half Torah, and they bring all that together. I want to, because you have from the front of the book to the end of the book, it's all connected. I want to connect the back of the book to this. Where else do we get a counting of sevens? Well, let's see if anybody gets that. I hear several answers. So we are coming up on Shavuot, which is you count 7 Sabbaths. That I believe that's a thematic connection to this as well. On Shavuot, that was when the Torah was given. That is when the Spirit descended. And so I don't want to, what I want to do is I want to focus not necessarily only on within these Torah portions, but I want to challenge you guys always to branch out and tie the back of the book to the front. later, when we get into chapter 26, as we go through there here, when it starts talking about punishments for disobedience, that can be tied into the Garden of Eden. But then if you look at it, you can also tie it towards Revelation, because the Adam in the garden sinned, and all of these things came upon him. Okay, so in this next section, we will tie the people of Israel as to Adam, and then the Garden of Eden that branches out and then becomes the land of Israel. Okay, do that again, the people of Israel, and then you branch that out from the land of Israel to the entire world. And so you see this progression, and it's all thematically connected. So I challenge everybody as they go through these to just branch out and try to get more insight, because we focus a lot on the Torah portion, the half Torah, those things. I'd like to see us as a body to tie in everything of the New Testament. Any questions, Aaron?
I just had one more thing about the keeping of slaves. I read those verses a lot like I read the commands on divorce. It really reads a lot to me like, since this is a thing, this is how I want my people to handle it. And he goes through a way to do it in the most humane way possible, to treat them with kindness, like Donnie was saying, to treat them better than you treat yourselves. So that's how I read it.
Your wife, don't forget her.
So with the 7 years, the rest year every 7 years, I was wondering if that is just for in the land, or do we do that here, and what does that look like?
I've heard debates. I've heard people say that it's only for the land. The only stance I'm going to take on that is that it is biblically a good principle to keep. So I'm not going to say you have to keep it outside the land, but I would say it's a very good idea to. He's not going to withhold blessings if you do that, in my belief. So anybody have anything else on that? Lori.
I don't remember the fellow's name, but quite a while back I was listening to a sociologist who was not a Christian and not Jewish. However, he did a lot of studies about the God of the Bible, and he said one of the reasons that the Israelites people are anti-Semitic against them is because the God of the Bible freed them from Egypt, got them out of slavery, and a lot of the world systems are to try to keep everybody in slavery, whether it's however that works. But this is why his proposition was that Christianity is the God of the Bible, Jewish people got them out of slavery, and nobody really likes that. Who wants to be in power and control? So I thought that was
I
fascinating.
mean, we can parallel like as a progression from the Garden of Eden to the land of Israel to the entire world. I see a correlation to like slavery just being transitioned, and like what does modern slavery look like? The definition mortgage for like a home, mort is a Latin word for death. It's considered a death loan. So I consider death or like financially indebted to be the new type of slavery that we are in. Majority of people are not completely debt-free. So I branch it out to that. So I consider most of everybody in the worldly sense a slave. Now we have spiritually have been set free from the bondage of sin. But if you can entertain that thought if you wish. Yeah.
Yeah, concerning usury, this has been asked over the years. Is it okay according to Torah to charge usury? And in the context here, it appears that if you have a poor brother and he needs help, it says, take no usury of him. I'm in verse 35 and 36. So it seems to apply to the situation. If you have a poor brother in need, don't charge usury of the money or of the victuals that you give him. So I think in the context, it's okay to take interest from a bank, interest, in the stock markets, whatever. But when the situation involves a poor brother, that's when it's not to be applied.
Anybody else?
Regarding the usury comment, the Hebraic mindset is you wouldn't do it, because keep in mind we're supposed to be a light. You wouldn't do it with a Gentile people. Even though it's permitted to, you wouldn't do it with the Gentile people. How much more so with your brothers? So I don't look at it as something that's permitted. But yeah, going back to the comment about slaves. There was a verse that stood out to me. This is in the second part of the Torah portion this week. Behar-Bechukotai, verse 12 of chapter 26. I will walk among you and will be your God. You will be my people. And you were talking about connecting it to the front of the book. V'hitchalakti, I will walk among you. Rashi translates this to mean that God isn't necessarily referring to in the land of Israel, I will walk amongst you, but in the world to come. After Revelation happens, Eden's coming back, and we're going to be walking with him. We'll still fear God, but we will not be afraid to walk with him. He'll walk personally with each and every single one of us, and that's the hope that we have. And though I thought it was also interesting because verse 13 says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. This is showing that he even walks with us now. He has brought us out of the land of Egypt. He's brought us out of our personal slavery. We are no longer slaves. To be not the Egyptians' bondmen, but to be servants of him. We're servants of him. And I have broken the bars of your yoke, and I have made you walk upright. Because when you're going through the slaves, right, and the Shemitah, it's a sin pattern. I refuse to accept the fact that I have to surrender this part of my life, the seventh year, to God. Your seventh year could be another area of your life where you're not surrendering it to God. So I refuse to surrender this to God. So what happens is the person sins once that way. He sins twice that way. It becomes permitted to him the second time. His heart changes where sin becomes permissible to him in his own eyes. So what that happens is he becomes a slave to that. He can no longer stand upright. He can no longer look people in the eye because of the shame weighing him down. And God says right here, I pulled you out of your own personal Egypt, and you walk upright and strong in this world. Not because you're a man's man, but because you're a God's man, and God lives in you. Just thought that was good. It really encouraged me this week.
All right. Let's get into chapter 26. Anybody want to read the first portion here? I'm going to go through verse 1 through, I'm going to do it how my Bible's laid out through verse 13.
You're not to make idols for yourselves, nor raise up an engraved image or a standing stone, or place any carved stone in your land to bow down to it. For I am Adonai your God. You are to keep my Shabbatot and have reverence for my sanctuary. I am Adonai. If you walk in my statutes, keep my mitzvot, and carry them out, then I will give you rains in their seasons. The land will yield its crops, and the trees of the field will yield their fruit. Your threshing will last until grape gathering. The grape gathering will last until the sowing time. You will eat your bread to the full and live securely in your land. I will bring shalom in the land, and you will lie down with no one making you afraid. I will remove dangerous beasts from the land, and no sword will pass through your land. You will chase your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. 5 of you will chase 1,000, and 100 of you will chase 10,000, and your enemies will fall by the sword before you. I will turn I will turn toward you, make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will confirm my covenant with you. You will eat the old harvest and clear out the old because of the new. I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul will not abhor you. I will walk among you, and I will be your God, and you will be my people. I am Adonai your God, who brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, so that you would not be their slaves. And I have broken the bars of your yoke and made you walk upright.
All right, thank you. Comments on that? Right there by Donnie.
The Jews say that God didn't give the Torah to them right away as they came out of slavery, because a lot of them were so disfigured from their slavery and broken and just destroyed by their slavery, their hard slavery that they were under, that he spent time healing them before they got to Mount Sinai and made them to walk upright again. Some of them just did the same thing over and over again, and you just get disfigured if that's what you do. Like people looking at cell phones all the time. They're going to have hunchbacks, pretty soon. But, so that's, having them be able to walk upright again is part of that, so part of that healing that happened between them leaving the Red Sea and Mount Sinai.
Thank you. Mark's got a question. Better yet, an answer? No?
Answers are hard to come by. I just want to make a comment about slavery and the difference between that and a servant. A long time ago, I saw an interview with an undercover agent who tried to get into the mob. And when he met the head of the mob, his question to him was, "Who are you indentured to?" And that was really an interesting question to me, and it made me realize that every one of us serves something or someone. And there's a lot of kickback today when you talk to people who are opposed to Christianity. One of the straw arguments they may say is, well, how come slavery is allowed in the Bible? And I think they miss the distinction, like Donnie was saying, in the late 1800s in our history, that we choose to, as you used the term bondservant, serve the living God. And there is as Yeshua said, my yoke is light and easy. There's a joy in that. And so God knows that he is, as it says, the buck stops here. He's the ultimate authority, and you either serve him or you serve the enemy. And I think in his love, he's saying, serve me and become my servant. So I think that's what people miss, is they may not even be conscious of the fact they are serving something, even though they think they're the ones who are in control of their own lives.
Yeah, and one last thing, still on the subject of slavery, but also on the relationship between, our God and the people of Israel as he led them out of Egypt. And this is pretty short, but when Moses confronted the Pharaoh, he told him to he said, let my people go, or God commanded Moses to tell the people to let his people go, so that they might worship him in the wilderness. And the key distinction of that is that while they were in Egypt, they were slaves to the Pharaoh and to the Egyptians. And the answer that God had for them was not, well, now you're free to do whatever you like, because whatever you like was the fall. It was Babylon. It was pre-flood. It's what caused the flood. Whatever you like and whatever you choose to make your God. But the solution that God had and the offer was, I will make you free so that you may come to me and that you may serve me and that I can be my master, because I love you and I will treat you well and I have for you blessings. And so the relationship between Israel and God is not that God paid off your debts so that you can be free and do whatever you like. But God purchased you from your debtors so that you may serve him and you may be servants to him for the rest of your lives, and that he may be your master, and that he brings blessings and goodness and sustains you. And most importantly, that you are not your own master, because you are. If you make yourself your own God, well, you're your worst God. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Anybody else? Yep, Amy?
My comment piggybacks off of yours. I listened to a teaching this week that put forth this idea. I didn't know Pharaoh actually owned the Israelites. They were his. And when Moses wanted the 3 days to go worship, I always thought he was pulling a fast one, but you know what? That's not his nature. He had integrity. He would have gone back. But because Pharaoh broke his own word and was taken out, that's what freed them to be able to go into the promised land, because there was nobody that owned them anymore. God truly did free them. I just think that's just a paradigm shift for me.
All right, so with that, keeping that in mind, and then this next section, we start the punishments for disobedience. On the way up here, as I was going through this, I connected this to the back of the book. There are 2 or 3 points in here that mirror a couple of the seals in Revelation. I view that as like, okay, everything's coming to a conclusion, just as Adam is a picture of the people of Israel, which is everybody who is born again. Thank you, James. The land of Israel is, the Garden of Eden is as likened to the land of Israel, expounding that, like I mentioned earlier. We just went through blessings for obedience, which I want to give encouragement to the people as we go into the final days, whenever that starts. If you are walking in the obedience, you will be still receiving this blessing. I am a firm believer that Yahweh can bless you through a famine. That being said, this punishments for disobedience is going to fall on the entire world. Judgment comes to the world. So as we read through this, just see if you pick out what is tied to the back of the book. If I can get a reader for verse 14, do I want to go? Does anybody want to be ambitious and do 14 through the end of the chapter? Amy.
But if you do not obey me and do not carry out all these commandments, if instead you reject my statutes, and if your soul abhors my ordinances so as not to carry out all commandments and so break my covenant, I, in turn, will do this to you. I will appoint over you a sudden terror, consumption and fever that shall waste away the eyes and cause the soul to pine away. Also, you shall sow your seed uselessly, for your enemies shall eat it up. And I will set my face against you so that you shall be struck down before your enemies, and those who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when no one is pursuing you. If also after these things you do not obey me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. And I will also break down your pride of power. I will also make your sky like iron, and your earth like bronze. And your strength shall be spent uselessly, for your land shall not yield its produce, and the trees of the land shall not yield their fruit. If then you act with hostility against me and are unwilling to obey me, I will increase the plague on you 7 times according to your sins. And I will let loose among you the beasts of the field, which shall bereave you of your children, and destroy your cattle, and reduce your number, so that your roads lie deserted. And if by these things you are not turned to me, but act with hostility against me, then I shall act with hostility against you, and I, even I, will strike you 7 times for your sins. I will also bring upon you a sword which will execute vengeance for the covenant. And when you gather together into your cities, I will send pestilence among you, so that you shall be delivered into the enemy hands. When I break your staff of bread, 10 women will bake your bread in one oven, and they will bring back your bread in rationed amounts, so that you will eat and not be satisfied. Yet, in spite of this, you do not obey me, but act with hostility against me. Then I will act with wrathful hostility against you, and I, even I, will punish you 7 times for your sins. Further, you shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters you shall eat. I then will destroy your high places and cut down your incense altars and heap your remains on the remains of your idols, for my soul shall abhor you. I will lay waste your cities as well, and I will make your sanctuaries desolate, and I will not smell your soothing aromas. And I will make the land desolate, so that your enemies who settle in it shall be appalled over it. You, however, I will scatter among the nations, and will draw out a sword after you, as your land becomes desolate and your cities become waste. Then the land will enjoy its Sabbath all the days of the desolation, while you are in your enemy's land. Then the land will rest and enjoy its Sabbaths. All the days of its desolation it will observe the rest which it did not observe on your Sabbaths, while you were living on it. As for those of you who may be left, I will also bring weakness into your hearts in the lands of your enemies. And the sound of a driven leaf will chase them, and even when no one is pursuing, they will flee as though from the sword, and they will fall. They will therefore stumble over each other as if running from the sword, although no one is pursuing. And you will have no strength to stand up before your enemies. But you will perish among the nations, and your enemies' land will consume you. So those of you who may be left will rot away because of their iniquity in the lands of your enemies, and also because of the iniquities of their forefathers. They will rot away with them. If they confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their forefathers in their unfaithfulness, which they committed against me, and also in their acting with hostility against me, I also was acting with hostility against them, to bring them into the land of their enemies. Or if their uncircumcised heart becomes humbled, so that they even make amends for their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and I will remember also my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham as well. And I will remember the land. For the land shall be abandoned by them, and shall make up for its Sabbaths, while it is made desolate without them. They, meanwhile, shall be making amends for their iniquity, because they rejected my ordinances, and their soul abhorred my statutes. Yet, in spite of this, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them, nor will I so abhor them as to destroy them, breaking my covenant with them, for I am the Lord their God. And I will remember for them the covenant with their ancestors, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the nations, that I might be their God. I am the Lord. These are the statutes and ordinances and laws which the Lord established between himself and the sons of Israel through Moses at Mount Sinai.
Thank you, Amy. Did everybody pick up towards the beginning when Amy started reading the judgments that come upon them mirror a lot of the seals in Revelation? That being said, this is going into the dispersion of the northern kingdom. If you fail to do these, I will punish you 7 times. If you fail to repent, I will punish you another 7 times, and then another 7 times. The northern kingdom was driven away by the Assyrians, and there is a calculation. It's been 3 years since I've done this study. I don't remember the exact number. 2,000-3,000 years was their judgment of being driven out. Depending on how you calculate, because there's debate of all this, the return of the northern kingdom is somewhere around the year 2009. Back when I was doing this study, is back when the exile of the northern kingdom was to end. I find it interesting. I believe around that time, roughly give or take a couple years, the Hebraic roots, Messianic, whatever you want to call this, started to really multiply to where people have come back and believe in the Messiah and keep the commandments. That's when it really started expanding rapidly, and I find that correlation to be very interesting. If anybody can remember that exact number of how many years the northern kingdom was to be taken away, that'd be great, but it was a lot, 2,000 to 3,000 years, I believe, if you'd multiply all those sevens. Other than that, we still have a chapter left. I don't know if we're going to get into it. I'd like to open it up, see if anybody has any comments on what Lori just read. Or Amy, yes. Amy has a comment on what Amy read.
I have a comment on what Lori just read. I just happened to be reading this morning the account of when Solomon dedicated the temple, and after he got done, well, first of all, I was really impressed that he did it on his knees, on a high, lifted-up platform. I kind of had never seen that before. But anyway, right after that, the Lord appeared to him for a second time. I only remember the one where he asked for wisdom, but no, he got 2 visits. And what you talk about connecting the book, what it said was, God spoke to him and said, if I shut up the heavens so that there's no rain, and if I command the locusts to devour the land, and if I send pestilence, and I don't know, I don't think of those things as being sent by God, but this is where we get the verse, then if my people who are called by my name shall humble, and I think sometimes we just take that out of context, but it's a definite reiterate what I just read. Mm-hmm. It's just like he just keeps confirming and confirming and confirming, but we're not getting it.
So to piggyback off of that, we have been preconditioned, at least I feel like I have, coming from like a Christian Protestant background. When you get into the book of Revelation, this is Satan controlling and doing everything. This is him. He is a prince. He calls him the prince of this world for the time being. But we have to change that mindset to be that Yahweh. This would not happen if Yahweh wasn't in control, and tell him that this is what's going to happen. You go back to the story of Job. Thank you. Job played out as Yahweh. Yahweh talks about who is like Job. He is an upright man, and then says, "Is there anyone to go down and to test him?" And that's when Satan steps forward and says, "I will go. I will do it." And he said, "You are allowed to do anything you want to Job for the exception of taking his life." So Satan, through all of the judgment, everything that has fell upon Job, Satan had to go and get permission to do that. So I believe it is very easily to give Satan way too much credit than what he deserves. Like, he is not in control of anything. There's nothing that is being done that is out of Yahweh's control. And I view Revelation as like that as well. It will not happen unless Yahweh says to do that. Yahweh allows it. Not saying that he is punishing you without just cause or for no reason or no extent. A lot of it is to like the first, I believe 4 seals in Revelation affect everybody on the planet. And then after 4, I believe it's 4, then it only affects certain people, just like in Egypt. Mike and Stevie, we have, technically I think we're out of time, but...
He's calling time on me.
Just real quick, we know that Yahweh declares the end out of the beginning, and in Leviticus 26, it talks about when you come into the land, and you keep my commandments, I'll give you rain in due season, and bless you. There'll be peace in the land, and I will rid the evil beast out of the land. And So if we fast forward to the end, we know that he's bringing his people back to the land right now. We know that the time of peace is just around the corner. It's coming, and Yeshua will reign. But I want to just kind of highlight verse 26, or chapter 26, verse 11. He says, "And I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. I will walk among you and be your God, and ye shall be my people." So this is, so again, during the millennium, when he's going to reestablish his people back in the land, fulfilling the promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that his children will inherit the land, his tabernacle will be set up in Jerusalem on Mount Zion again. So just want to, and we have a temple conference just by chance coming up here in a couple of months. So if you want to learn more about this tabernacle that he's going to set up in the land, I encourage you to sign up.
Yes, go to mnlt.org. Stevie, I've been yelled at several times that we're out of time.
I won't belabor this. I
Don't
just
get me in
wanted
trouble.
to focus our attention on verse 32. It says of 26, I will make desolate. I will make the land desolate. Upon it will be your enemies who dwell in it. So these series of curses that we're seeing, pretty powerful. Yet, in a sense, this is also a blessing because we can reflect upon that for the times of the exile, these millenniums. They have not prospered in the land. The enemies have not prospered. But now that Israel has returned, the land is fruitful, blooming again. So that's a great affirmation as well.
Amen. All right, I will close in prayer. We're several minutes to pass. So Yahweh, thank you for this Torah portion that you have blessed us with.